I adored many DreamWorks films that have been released over the years. One of these films was Bee Movie. The plot of the film was a bee named Barry B. Benson, who had recently graduated. While on the expedition with the pollen jocks, he gets lost in the rain and meets a florist named Vanessa. While on an outing with Vanessa, Barry learns that humans have been stealing and profiting honey from the bees. Infuriated, he then goes as far as bring the human race to justice over the matter. What many people don't know, however, is that there was a much darker ending to the version of this movie. Now, I bet you're wondering, how did I know about this alternative ending? Well, I was watching HBO one night until I saw a promo that stated that the Bee Movie was coming up next. I was ecstatic, so I went down to the kitchen to make myself some popcorn and soda. Then I went upstairs and waited plenty for the movie to begin. The movie started and it was normal, with Barry irritating the boy in DreamWorks logo before stinging him and sitting on top of the logo's moon. The movie began with Barry choosing of what to wear for his graduation ceremony. The movie was fine and normal until the scene where Adam stings Montgomery at the court. Adam then fell to the ground with a small thud. As the bee laid there, Barry flew over to his friend. As he panicked by the motionless body, "Adam, stay with me," Barry said, comforting his friend. Adam just looked up at Barry before smiling and collapsing to the ground, implying that Adam had died. Barry then began to cry over the motionless corpse. The camera then cuts to show the interior of Barry's hive, where the bees are holding a funeral procession for Adam. Everyone was there weeping and crying softly. I was practically shedding a few tears myself during this scene. The things then started to becoming very normal for a while, with Barry eventually winning the court case and taking all back the honey. It played out as usual, but when it comes to the scene where Vanessa and Barry were on the plane to transport the flowers, the movie then started to take a really dark turn again. Barry and Vanessa, like in the film, tried to fly the plane after Barry had individually incapacitates the two pilots. The plane was then struck by lightning, disabled the autopilot feature, which Barry then stated was keeping the plane afloat at this time. The two started panicking and trying to keep the plane afloat, but things soon dissolved into chaos. When Barry slapped Vanessa trying to calm her down, this results in Vanessa slapping Barry, to the point where two of them started to get into a slap fight. As they were too busy slapping each other silly, that's when they had forgotten what they were doing before, which is to keep the plane afloat. The two were too busy slapping each other until Barry cuts the tension when looking outside of his cockpit's window. Vanessa, I think you need to see this," Barry exclaimed with a frightful expression. Vanessa then looked to see what the plane was nearing the tarmac. "Oh, jeez!" Vanessa screamed as she grabbed the steering wheel and hoisted the plane back up. She also tried to get the plane into position, only for the plane to crash into the tarmac. The camera then cuts to show the cockpit, where Barry and Vanessa were violently thrown back. The flames extinguished the whole plane, and the flames really killed them. But, of course, Vanessa had some blisters and burns on her. Barry was violently thrown against the wall, and his body disappeared in the flames. The plane then flipped in the air and landed on its back, as I could hear muffled screams of the passengers. The bees then arrived on scene, but their faces were the pure expressions of abject horror, looking at the now wrecked up plane. "Oh no, we're too late," a bee exclaimed, as the bees began to mourn the loss of Barry and Vanessa, including Barry's parents, especially Janet, Barry's mother, who was crying on her husband's shoulder. Barry's father, Martin, was comforting his wife. As he looked about, he was about to break down in tears as well. The camera then panned up to show the bees standing and observing the plane crash. The credits began to roll, and the only thing that was heard was the flames that was spreading on the fire of the plane, and then the screams of the passengers, which eventually fell silent. This is where the movie ends, and that was that. And that, my little pretties, was Bee Movie Alternative Ending Remastered, or Rewritten, I guess. A Bee Movie creepypasta written by Affan Jamsari. My final thoughts on this story? This is slightly better than the original one. Like, I kind of remember reading the original version of the story. And, that was back when the grammar wasn't really that good. And Affan Jamsari managed to, do a rewrite on this story. So I am going to give him credit when credit is due, that he did a pretty good job, remaking this pasta. Which I definitely would have to say that's really good that he actually, well, I guess you could say rewrite the story. And to be completely honest, I kind of remember, reading the original one, which I'm going to go to the original one right now. And the whole pasta itself, it kind of somewhat, is similar. But I think it's more, readable in a sense. Like, I don't remember much about the original. I haven't read it in, like, a while. So maybe that's why. I really don't know. But I really would have to say that I really like how, it's, redone. Like, I'm really glad that it's, like, a redone of this. And there's definitely that. I'm definitely going to say that I like how, this was, like, a rewrite of the story. There's definitely that. I really do appreciate this. It's slightly better, but at the same time, it wasn't really that perfect. Like, I mean, there were a couple grammatical errors in the story, so that was kind of why I actually, stuttered a bit. And the sentence structuring was good, but I did spot a few run-on sentences in the story, so that was kind of why the story was a bit difficult to read at times. But I definitely would have to say this is better and more readable, in my opinion, than how the original one was. Like, I mean, I don't mind people rewriting the stories that they've done before. Like, that's totally fine. Like, if they want to rewrite a story that they've done before in the past, that's totally fine. Like, I never had a problem with that. I literally never had a problem with people rewriting their stories, like, if there's, like, a reason to. Now, I have not rewritten one of my stories in, like, well, I think I did one once, but I don't remember. But to be completely fair, and to be completely honest, some rewrites, when people rewrite, pastas, some of them are actually a lot better than how the original one went out. Depending on the good context and all that was involved in the story itself. Now, I'm going to sit here and say that this story was actually quite better than the original. But with the characters dying at the end, Vanessa and Barry, I really wasn't really too fond of, that. It's still not a bad creepypasta, but it does need a little bit more work. Like, I think it might have been having to do with something else. I'm not really too sure on that note, but I really would have to sit here and say that this story was not a terrible one. It does need a bit of work, though, but I'm definitely going to sit here and say that this story was definitely a lot more readable. Like the last one, I kind of did have trouble reading it. And that was back, I think, like a couple months ago or something. I don't know when I read the original one. It must have been maybe sometime last year, or maybe it might have been early this year. I'm not too sure. I don't really keep track when it comes to, certain creepypastas or certain stories I've narrated. I sometimes don't keep track of that. But I definitely would have to say it's better than the original. So this one, I definitely say the rewrite was necessary. I really do think that Affan Jamsari did a great job on, rewriting the story, which is pretty neat. I know it's called remastered. I'm just going to call it rewritten because, that's how some people, do with certain pastas nowadays. So there's definitely that. I definitely could tell that there was a lot more included in the story, like the detail in that, which is good. But despite the few grammatical errors that need to be fixed and the sentence structuring, I did notice that there might have been a couple run-on sentences, so that's actually something that needs to be fixed. But the story itself is a lot more readable and a lot more understanding than the original was. Like, I'm not trying to bash the original in any way, shape, or form. I just, stating my opinion. But I guess with that being the case, that being said, there's nothing really much I have to say. I do like this one better than the original, so there's definitely that. There's definitely that I'm saying right now. Like, Affan Jamsari, you did a pretty good job on rewriting this one, although there still needs some improvement to be done. but it's still a pretty good pasta. Not, like, it's not terrible, but it's not bad either. So, there's that. It's not good, but it's not bad either. It's in the middle, though, so to speak. I guess that's one way to put it. Now, I'm gonna sit there and, say this right now, and like I always continue to say, this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regarding these creepypastas, and this is just simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story would have to be a 6 out of 10. I'm giving this a 6 out of 10 because it's better than the original story went out. There's a lot more detail, and there was improvement on the grammar. There was a lot more improvement on it, along with the sentence structuring. Although they do need to be fixed up in certain spots. But the story itself was actually not bad. It does need some improvement, but it's still a pretty good story. I'm not gonna lie. It's still a pretty good story. I actually find this one to be also more readable than the original one. But I also really appreciate the more time and effort that is put into the story. So I guess with that being the case, that being said, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode, and if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.